All right.
Okay, we're now recording. So this is the Authors Cafe. We do this every Monday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time right now. And as you can see by the traffic out here, this is downtown Vancouver. We have a cloudy day. It's not raining, and it's about 12 degrees, which is 54 degrees. So it's a pleasant day. And today our topic is, what are you known for? And that is really important when it comes to being an author. They have to know who you are. If you're all over the map and all over the place, people don't really understand who you are and what you write and what you're all about. So I'm going to start the open discussion with Wendy on what are you known for?
Well, before I get into that, I want to just draw this attention, because we hear about writer platform and branding, and sometimes businessy jargon confuses people. And that's why I like this title, What Are You Known For? Because it's something you can hang on to. It's like, okay, I get that. What am I known for? And for some people, you can be known for one specific thing. Like, I write this kind of book, and I write this kind of book only. For example, I write nonfiction about business success, or I write nonfiction about raising dogs, or, you're an expert in a specific, very niche field. And for others, because, like, for me, I'm a writer and an artist, and I had to kind of go, okay, how can I put that in one capsule? Because I know from sales and marketing experience that a confused customer doesn't buy. So if people are kind of confused about who you are and what you do, and things are different all the time, and you're here and you're there and you're doing that, and people are really slow to kind of follow you unless you really make a big impact, that I've had to go, okay, how do I put this all in a bubble? And for me, and I'm still just kind of working on developing this more, and that is I'm about creativity and about helping creative people succeed in their creative endeavors, in particular art and writing. And so becoming known for that is kind of bigger than just, I write this specific kind of book. And as long as, the way I see it, as long as you're able to convey that and get that message across, then that's what you can be known for.
But it's not good enough just to say, I write non-fiction, because that could be anything. Mm-hmm. So should you be in a specific category, or should you simply just say, I write non-fiction in this area, or I write non-fiction, but give a sort of a broader stroke rather than too narrow? What do you think?
Well, I think it kind of goes back to what we talked about on previous blabs, and what we promote to clients all the time, and that is knowing who your ideal target is, because that gives you an idea who you're going to write to, and if you're going to write to them, you need to then represent something that they're attracted to. Right?
Okay, that makes sense.
So I think that it comes with that, and I agree with Wendy in saying that the technical jargon can sometimes get in the way of taking action and even exploring certain things. So I'd like to kind of talk a little bit about jargon a little bit, and kind of distinguish the difference between branding, or what you're known for, and marketing. Because I think a lot of people think they're the same thing, and they're not. Right? They do work together, but they're not the same thing. The difference, branding is Goodyear blimp. During, for longest time ever, that I can think back anyways, the Goodyear blimp goes across the stadium, and people see it up there, and we recognize the blimp, but it doesn't mean I'm going to run out and buy some tires. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
I know what they're known for, and it doesn't even solidify my decision that that's the brand that I buy. But I'm aware that that's what they do. So that's branding. It's letting someone know what it is you stand for or what you do. Right? So marketing now, the slight difference with marketing is marketing, you want to have the exposure, but when done properly, it also has a call to action. Because then it's something that creates revenue for you because we don't want to just branding all the time if nothing's coming back in, right? It's why would you do that, right? It doesn't make sense to do that. So you want to have the call to action part of it to bring them in. So you want a mixture of two. You do want to have a certain element of what you're doing to brand, but again, that should be based on the niche you're in, the target you're going for, and who that ideal customer is, what it is their mind is looking for as something they would be attracted to resolve, the fantasy they want to get into, or the drama they want to get into, or whatever the book it is that you're writing. To understand those things, then when you present that in your logo or your symbol, your name, your business name, slogans, taglines, and again, depending on as large as you get, musical jingles, color schemes. There's so many different aspects to what you need to think about when you're thinking about branding, right? Packaging, even the extension of who you are. If you've got staff, what are they putting out there, right? How they dress, how they look, how they act, how they respond. So there's a lot to consider, but I think it's important to understand that we don't want to just be focused on saying, hey, we're just branding for the purpose of being known, because then what happens is you're known a lot, but you're also broke a lot. And I think authors already have the first part down.
You know who you are.
I sure know who the heck you are, but you're sure broke a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know Wade isn't on the call right now, but he's got the same sort of thing. He does golf books. He does a lot of golfing, but that's not, he writes about it. That's sort of one piece that encompasses him.
Yeah, but he's got that hat on. That's what he's presenting, right?
Yeah, that's right. But then he has another hat where he does mobile social, which is totally different. But he can integrate what he does in his golf world and things that he does and tie them back in. So it doesn't mean you're known for. So if he's known for golf, but he's known for mobile social, there is a way to tie it together. And that comes back to what you were saying, Wendy. You're an artist. You're a writer, and you pull both those worlds together. And to me, pulling them together is not necessarily the branding side of it, but perhaps it's the marketing side. But not too sure. Garry?
Yeah. Well, again, it goes back to just really understanding the components. All those components I talked about all contribute to the feeling that someone gets when they think about you.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And it's that feeling of whatever it is that you want to present, whether the feeling is, certainty or creativity or drama or mystery or romance, whatever it is, it's based on all those other things that you put in place. And so that's important. Now, when you have all that and then you tie that into your marketing, that's when you've got gold.
Yeah. And it's how you do that is, how do you get your name out there? How do you let people what you really want to be known for rather than what you are known for, which can be two different things. And I know we all as authors struggle with the fact that, people who know you personally know you one way and they don't necessarily know your other world, which you want to be known for. So, how do you collide those worlds?
Well, I
still,
think too,
stay
a lot
sane?
of authors have run into this when they decide to write in a different genre. So if you've already built up an audience for your Regency romances, and then you decide to write thrillers or mysteries or something, you have to rebrand in a different way and almost find a new audience generally. Like, for example, Nora Roberts, who is a well-known author, she wrote romances for years and years, and then she decided to write thrillers. Well, in order to do that, she had to rebrand, and she even chose a pseudonym to appeal to a different market, because it was just such a different target, a different crowd who would want to read what she was writing. And I think a lot of authors who write in more than one genre often do it that way because of the audience appeal, and it's tricky sometimes.
Well, I think it's tricky.
Yeah, she seems to have done really well with that. Sorry, Garry. The J.D. Robb and the Nora Roberts. They look like two different entities until you start reading the stuff. You realize it's the same person writing under another name. But it gave her two different branding components.
Right.
But she's still known for writing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's difficult because, if an author starting off is trying to do both or two or three at the same time, that's challenging because there's a lot of energy, a lot of there's so many components to doing just one, and then to have to do it for three, it stretches you so much that none of them get done well, right?
Yeah.
So the ones that are able to make that transition, and any industry, whether it's authors or athletes or actors, any of them, what they do is they pick one, they go bull, they get really good at it, make themselves known, and then when that's settled, they've got a crowd. They can just know that crowd is there to just kind of sit there for them whenever they need to tap into them, and then they can then go step up. But they do have to then put on a different hat, and like you said, almost start from scratch and rebrand completely new in that realm.
Unless you have such a following for your personality.
Correct.
If people love you for whatever you do, and they want to follow you if you go this way or that way or whatever, then you don't have to rebrand every time. You just have to tell them, okay, gang, we're now going this way, and I've got something new and I'm really excited about it or whatever. And so that's a little bit different way to go about it. So you're branding yourself as the person who people want to kind of go along with.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like Garry was mentioning, actors sometimes they get pigeonholed into a certain type of role. And how do they move out of it? Like Sandra Bullock, before she got her Oscar, was pigeonholed into this comedic, romantic comedy type stuff. And then she turned around and did a dramatic role. And even though it was different for her, she ended up with an Oscar. But trying to get out of that little role is difficult. Then you take a Johnny Depp, who does all these incredibly weird characters. He get pigeonholed into, Pirates of the Caribbean, with Captain Jack, and then all of a sudden he's Willy Wonka, and then he's the Mad Hatter, and now he's in a real dramatic role. So you're right, we do follow him as to what he's doing, follow Sandra to what she's doing, but there's so many of them that get pigeonholed into a certain thing, and that's all they ever get auditioned for. And that becomes a problem. That's the acting side, but that's the same thing that happens as an author. They expect you to write in a certain way.
We never expect Stephen King to write a romance. Never.
No.
It would just
no.
Could he possibly? But we never expect it.
No, exactly.
And if he was to start a romance series, he would have to really rebrand himself and his identity in order to get a crowd there, because the other crowd's going to say, just not into what we bought into so long, right? So again, it's a tricky thing to do it. It can be done, but it is tricky. Even those that are highly successful and have already big crowds, it is definitely a lot to think about if you're going to do that.
Yeah, and although if with someone like Stephen King, who has probably quite a loyal following. I mean, James Patterson did it. He was writing thrillers and action stuff, and then he wrote some romances. Now, he may not have written them himself. It might just be his name on the cover, but it's his name that has the recognition anyway. So, you know, people followed. I'm sure people just went, well, let's have a look at that because he wrote it. So there is that. But it is, like I said earlier, developing the following for yourself or your name, and then, you know, whatever you do.
Yeah, you're right on the mark there. It is you initially have to pigeonhole yourself and focus and build that, I guess it's brand before you can market. So you're known for a certain thing. You build that following, and then they will follow you into other areas. If you do it too soon, you kind of destroy your credibility. So you really have to be known for something initially. And you know, that's what happens. Wendy, you're known for writing sweet romance, and we just know that your next book will be that, and anything kind of follows in there. But we also know you're an artist at the same time. So having your coloring book, which does well, it ties in the same vein. But you've built that following first, and then you added some extra things. But it's still a book. It's still in the same kind of area, the same flair that you have. And Garry, when you do your stuff, it's the same thing.
Yeah. My stuff does tend to be in a all contained within a similar box. I mean, you know, personal development, business growth, sales, marketing, those kinds. I mean, it does tend to. So it's a little easier for me to do that because my box is a little bigger, that I can kind of wear different hats in that box and still be represented as the same thing, right?
That's a really good point.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's similar enough, you can wear different hats within that box.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, I have people who follow me because they've read one thing. It's like, I love what she does, and I want to know what else she does. And, oh, wow, she's got something completely different. Well, I'm probably going to love that too because I love that first or second thing so much. And I mean, that's a great thing when you can build that. But sometimes you do, especially for creative people. Sometimes it's very hard to focus on one particular thing unless you're just really passionate about that one thing.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but it does help to be able to say, okay, I'm going to take all these things and put the ones in the box that really say, this is what I want to be known for.
Yeah, well, exactly. Take Karina, for instance. She's written this fantasy trilogy. So she had to create a bigger box. She created the jewelry and sold jewelry based on the same genre. She developed clothing. She's got toys. She's got, you know, and different mediums of art, but she's all focused in that one genre, that fantasy genre. So she's able to get her creativity out there, not just writing, but adding all these other components as an artist. And it's surprising. People start following her because they never know what kind of medium in the art she's going to bring into the mix, which is really cool. So you can still, you know, just expand your box a bit, but you still have to be known for something. Like maybe it's the genre.
The theme is kind of the same throughout. So you come.
Yeah, and maybe that's what it is. Yeah, maybe it's theme-based ideas that you're known for being in a certain theme, because I know for myself, I love business management side of the world. So my books tend to fall into that. I don't have to focus necessarily on the fact that I'm an expert at networking and I've got 9 books out in that area. I could expand that because it's a business management focus to help people take the next step and partner up with Garry on the marketing side. Okay, Garry, I want to write a book on marketing side. These are the things I want to do. And someone else helps fill in those gaps. So it becomes more of a collaborative component. And of course, that's how we ended up with Authors Success Guild. I'm just trying to look at our time. I realize we've only got 4 minutes left. So last words, I'll ask each of you. I'll start with you, Garry.
Okay, so, okay, where do we wrap it up? I think the first step for authors listening, I think what you need to do is you need to measure your current brand, your brand awareness. And you can do that through, Wendy, you've done some questionnaires and stuff like that. depending on size of your reach, you could do focus groups, surveys, questionnaires, different things to kind of find out what people do think of you and what they expect of you or from you. And then based on those answers, you can measure, is the desired audience that you want, are they aware of you? Is the audience you want to target, are they aware of who you are and what you do? And then if they are, then what attributes do they associate to you, right? And the brand and or your brand that you want to put out there. Yeah. And then the third thing you want to look at is, based on the information you get from those things, you need to determine if your marketing strategy should be adjusted in light of any new information you get from that research.
That's really good.
Yeah, that's excellent. What about you, Wendy?
I think one of the first things you need to do is decide what you're most passionate about doing and what's the most fun for you, because life is precious and you want to enjoy it. So a lot of us go, well, where can I make the most money? And that's important because we all need to have money to live on. But I think if you think, what am I like as a person? Who am I as a person? And how can I convey that in an authentic way? And how does that tie into what I write? And how can I, make that whole package work together? Then that's a really good place to start, because you'll probably have a better career, for one thing, because you'll be able to stick with it. I find I've worked with a lot of creative people, and what happens is if you follow the money, then one day you just go, I can't force myself to do this anymore because I'm not getting enough joy out of it. So I think it's really important to look at where your own joy originates, what gives you enjoyment, and then hook it together with how do you convey that to the world.
Yeah, I find that the big key behind it, if you don't love what you're doing, then there's no fun in it. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this up right now. This is the Authors Cafe, and the title today is, What Are You Known For? This replay will be available on Blab, but it'll also be available on YouTube. And just look at the bottom for the information on how to get to Authors Success Guild. It's simply authorsuccessguild.com. So we hope to see everybody back here next Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'm going to turn off the recording.
I think next week we're doing social media, right? Does your social media profile? Right. Isn't that what we're working on? Yeah, and how that aligns.
Yeah,
with your
we're doing branding with social media, which is going to be a really exciting topic. So make sure it's already scheduled in. Make sure that you subscribe to it so you don't miss that episode.
And so until next week. Pacific Standard Time. Right now, we're not in daylight. Right?
Did I say daylight? That's terrible. Pacific Standard Time. So hopefully we'll see everybody next week, and talk to you soon.
Bye for now.